Welcome to World of Yoga Wednesday. If you don't know me already, my name is Ashley. I'm the yogi next door. I just was talking for like 35 minutes and then realized that I had no signal whatsoever. So I'm really okay, I think it's working now. I cannot believe I did that. I was literally doing my entire crazy notes here. And yeah, it was not coming over live. So we're gonna try this again. If you don't know me already, you're probably thinking, what the heck is this crazy person talking about? Yeah, not the best at technology, still learning every day. But that aside, if you don't know me, my name's Ashley. I'm the yogi next door. This is Energy Flow Yoga, and this is World of Yoga Wednesday, where I come on Instagram Live once per week and share some information about yoga and cyclical living, which are my two biggest passions and why I am really here and why I'm talking to you all today. So just to jump right in, I'm going to be sharing today about cycle tracking and why it's such an integral part of cyclical living. It's really, you can't embrace cyclical living without cycle tracking, so I'm going to explain what it is, how to do it, and then I'm going to share just a little information. I won't jump ahead too much, but just some information about stuff that came up this week, why I felt inspired to share this, and then a little bit of a practice, or a little bit of a yoga practice to help you get started on this cyclical living journey, or deepen your cyclical living journey. So just jumping right in, what is cycle tracking? If you're new to the world of cyclical living or cycle tracking, you might not be 100% sure what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about this practice of tracking, very simply, marking, noting, observing your menstrual cycle and the lunar cycle. So the reason that you track your menstrual cycle and that you track your lunar cycle is that so you can better embrace and honor, connect with your body through all phases and all parts of yourself, right? It's easy to connect with that amazing summer energy, but maybe it's not so easy to connect when you're feeling low, and it's harder to honor, I should say, that need for rest in today's busy, fast-paced world. So cycle tracking is all about that first part of cyclical living, which is first getting that wisdom from yourself and actually tracking where you are in your cycle and tracking how that makes you feel. Both, I mean, emotionally, physically, energetically, all of those things combined. So that is what cycle tracking is. And if you're still not really sure what I mean by cycle tracking and you're thinking, well, what does she mean all parts? I'm talking about the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. So just to do a quick overview, if you're new to this world, or maybe if you're not new, if you're an expert and you just want to revisit that and just think of it maybe in a new way, there are 4 phases of our menstrual cycle. Now, everyone is super familiar with the first phase, and that's the menstrual phase. That's when you're actually having your period. So that's when you're actually bleeding. It's considered the first phase. It's the beginning of the cycle. And if you don't have a cycle for whatever reason, or maybe you're past the point in your life when you have a cycle, if you already are moving or have moved through menopause, or if you don't have a cycle yet, if you're younger than that and you haven't had a cycle, for any reason you've lost it due to hormonal birth control or other health issues, you can connect with the lunar cycles as a way to embrace this world of cyclical living as well. So even if you're not currently experiencing an actual bleed, you can still connect with your body in this way to honor this natural way of cycles in nature, the way the lunar cycles, the cycles of the seasons as well. So we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But the first phase is the menstrual phase. That's when you're actually having your period, or associated with the new moon. So that's the phase of the lunar cycle where you don't see any moon in the sky because the sun is no longer basically the earth is between the sun and the moon and blocking the light from reflecting off the moon's surface. So energetically speaking, or physically speaking, I should say, you might be feeling at your lowest energy during this phase. Estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest levels in this phase. Those are the two principal sex hormones in a female body. And that is the cause for those feelings of low energy, maybe more of a desire to withdraw, be alone, etc., etc. If you're a cycling person, you know what it feels like to be on your period. The next phase, the second phase, is the follicular phase, which is actually the phase we're in right now in terms of the lunar cycle, and that's connected to the waxing moon. So this is right after that new moon where the sky has been totally black, and then you start to see that sliver of the moon creeping in, and the light grows and grows every night. So during this phase, you have a rise in estrogen, which means an increase in rise in energy, and the follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, which is actually stimulating a follicle, or many follicles actually, in your ovary to produce a viable egg. So that's why it's called the follicular phase, because the follicle is actually developing. The third phase, which is connected with the full moon, picture that big, bright, beautiful orb in the sky. Makes people crazy a little bit, maybe get a little bit less sleep because you have a lot of energy. That's connected to the ovulatory phase, oftentimes referred to as the main event of the menstrual cycle. This is kind of what it's all building up to, right? It's the climax of the month. This is when you might experience the peak of your energy levels. So basically what's happening here is it's the peak of your estrogen, peak of testosterone, because women have testosterone as well, or I should say female bodies also have testosterone, but not as much as male bodies. Or I should say it plays a much bigger part in the male body. And also a luteinizing hormone. So LH, or the luteinizing hormone, is actually what triggers the release of that egg from the ovary to move down the fallopian tube, ready to join the uterus and potentially be inseminated and grow into a baby one day. But if that doesn't happen, you already know the rest of the story, but we'll get there in a moment. So in ovulation, or the full moon, this is when you might experience that peak of energy, the desire to be around others, maybe an increase in sexuality or sensuality. That is what you might expect. In terms of seasons, this would be connected with summer. So it's just that big, bright, loud energy in the ovulatory phase. After ovulation, so ovulation is the climax, and then we experience that denouement until we reach menstruation again, or until we get our period again. So this phase is called the luteal phase, so called because that luteinizing hormone is what triggers the beginning of the luteal phase. This is when we experience a drop in estrogen and then a rise in progesterone. So progesterone is actually produced by the corpus luteum, which is part of a structure that's part of that egg that was released from the follicle. So ovulation causes the luteal phase. Hi, Caitlin. So in the luteal phase, right immediately following ovulation, you might still be feeling that kind of high, like the after effects of the high energy from ovulation. But as you get closer and closer to your period, you might experience a decrease in energy. And this is when you would most likely see PMS symptoms start to crop up. The cramps, bloating, acne breakouts, digestive issues, headaches, back pain. You guys know, if you're a cyclical body, you know, you probably, unfortunately, have experienced some PMS symptoms before. And this is our body's signal to us to begin to intuitively connect with that and slow down to prepare for that. I don't want to say rock bottom, because that definitely has a negative connotation, but as the hormones are gradually decreasing, that lowest point, which is going to come up on the beginning of your period, or back to the beginning, back to the menstrual phase. So that is a little overview. Oh, I should say this is connected with the waning moon. So after that big bright full moon, and then the full light begins to diminish bit by bit until, again, it's completely black in the new moon again. So that's just a quick overview of what the 4 phases are. And that's connected also with the lunar cycle. So just a quick recap. First phase is the menstrual phase, associated with the new moon and associated with winter, that time for rest and recuperation. The second phase is the follicular phase, associated with spring. It's that time of growth, of increasing vibrancy and life, connected with the waxing moon. The third phase is the main event, the full moon, ovulation, when the egg is actually being released, and that's your peak levels of estrogen and your peak energy of the month. Or I should say your cycle, not necessarily 1 month, right? And then the gradual decrease in energy is the luteal phase, autumn, or the waning moon. So that's a quick recap of what the cycles are. And then I want to get into why this is so important to listen to and honor. So our society is not really set up in this way. We're set up in a more of a linear fashion. It's step 1 leads to step 2, leads to step 3, and so on and so forth, in a never-ending reach for the top. And but if you look at nature, and of course if you look at a cyclical body, you see this reflected from nature. Things don't actually work that way on Earth. Things work in a cyclical fashion. You have the moon cycles. You have the seasonal cycles. Even the sun is a cyclical cycle, right? It just happens all in a 24-hour period, but there's a rise and there's a fall. And instead of trying to force the body to conform to this linear model that we've designed, wouldn't it be so much more powerful if you could embrace that blueprint that's already within us, embrace the model that's already within? And that's why cycle tracking is really becomes so important to embracing the cyclical living. It's really about embracing all parts of yourself. Embracing, yes, that big, bright, vibrant energy that you might feel in ovulation, but also embracing that need for rest and that need for solitude and quiet that you might feel during menstruation. And both of those are equally important and equally worthy in your body. And I think mostly it's just an issue of this, I don't want to say like obsession, but basically obsession of our society to like be productive, and you must always be working, and rest is weak and rest is bad. And if we don't rest, we can't then shine, right? If you don't rest, you can't work. If you don't sleep, you can only be awake for so long. So really this whole cyclical world is about, or this cyclical living journey is about embracing all parts of yourself and accepting them as beautiful and perfect and worthy just as they are, right? That's why I'm so passionate about this, because I see so much from external sources telling all people, but I work mainly with women or people who are cycling, and it's like we receive so many messages of things that are wrong, or things that are not good enough, or things that we should change, or ways we can conform. And instead of listening to that announcement or that mindset, what if we take the mindset of, I already have everything within me, the blueprint that my body has, this beautiful cycle that's reflected in nature, is actually the most powerful and amazing and perfect thing I could do. So I kind of got on my little soapbox there. That wasn't really what I was going to talk about today. But I felt inspired to talk about this week and share about this. I had a wonderful Instagram live as a guest on a friend's page. Her name is Hannah, and she's the owner of Heart Skincare. And she and I really just had a talk. We left it very open-ended about just like, let's talk about yoga and cyclical living, and just her skincare company is all about embracing that cyclical living through the way you treat your skin, literally, in terms of using products that change throughout the cycle, because our body is different at different parts of the cycle and our needs are different in terms of skincare. But she's so much more than just skincare, although it's amazing what she does. But she talks so much about how you can incorporate cyclical living into, or just embracing cyclical living through these self-care practices with her skincare, but then also through things like journaling. She talks a lot about journaling and that tool, that to use that tool as a means of reflection and connection with yourself in embracing this cyclical world. So in our talk on, what day was that? On Monday night here, which was actually Tuesday morning there because she's in Australia. So that was kind of complicated getting our time zones arranged for our Instagram Live, but we managed. So in our talk on Monday night, we got on the topic of, we were both coincidentally in our follicular phase, and we were both saying, normally I feel really high energy in my follicular phase, but this month I'm really not feeling that high energy in my follicular phase. And we were discussing that almost internal struggle of I should be feeling this way because it's my follicular phase. Instead of saying, looking at this tracking practice and saying, I am feeling this way. That's the knowledge aspect. That's that first step, is the knowledge of what, I don't want to say should because that's not the right word. The first step in the cyclical living journey is the knowledge, right? It's the knowledge of literally, scientifically, what is happening in the body. And that's what I described of the rise and fall of different hormones throughout the phase, right? But the second step, that knowledge is super important, and you don't necessarily have to understand it and know all the hormones, but to understand it from base level of the rise and the fall, right? But then the second step, which is even way more powerful and important, is connecting to that wisdom from within, connecting to that wisdom within yourself. So that's why cycle tracking is so important, because when you begin to note, well, every day 7, I'm just coming out of my period and I really feel like that springtime energy, like a burst forth, and I feel like energetic and outgoing and I want to do all these things. But then this month I'm feeling really tired and burned out and worn out. And the question is, why? And when we have that backup of the cycle tracking, we know what's normal for our own body. Not just what's normal or common or expected necessarily on paper, right? Because I can tell you, in your menstrual phase, you're going to feel really tired. And in your follicular phase, you're going to feel like this. But I'm presenting this information, and it's up to you to internalize that and understand it, what it means through your own experience, through your own body. You might always feel amazing during your menstrual phase. You might just love that cuddly, cozy, dreamy vibe you get during your menstrual phase. And that's just based on personality types, your living environment, what type of things you enjoy. Maybe your favorite thing ever is just cuddling up with a book. Well, then a menstrual phase would be great for that, right? Because you get to cuddle up and stay cozy and read your book. So we were, in our discussion, in Hannah's and my discussion, we were both saying, normally we feel energetic during the follicular phase, but this follicular phase, we weren't feeling that way. And then the question begs, well, why not? And we both kind of came to the conclusion that, well, it's probably because I wasn't really honoring my need for rest during the previous phase, during the menstrual phase. We both were saying that we had been kind of overbooking ourselves and overworking, and that is when this yoga practice really comes into play. And it really made me think about how I think during the follicular phase, we can often almost take advantage too much of this energy because it's so much more accepted by society, right? It's so much more accepted to be in the hustle and working super hard and go, go, go. And, I'm Miss Go-Getter and I'm just going to keep working all day long. And you might really almost feel that energy from within during the follicular phase. But are you going too hard? Are you pushing too hard? Have you still taken that step back to listen and check in with yourself? So that's what I wanted to get into today. It's going to be a very quick grounding practice. And during those high energy phases, it can just be can maybe be just like a little bit more difficult to connect in with the body because you have that high energy and you're so outwardly focused, right? You're out connecting with people and doing different things and like just going out there and putting yourself out there. It might be a little more difficult to take a step back and check in with yourself. So that's why I wanted to do this quick grounding practice for our World of Yoga Wednesday today. And I'm going to turn this so I can come to my mat. Actually, oops, I'm going to knock over my tripod. That's no good. Okay, I think that view is pretty good actually. We're just gonna take a few minutes to do this quick grounding practice. You can do this anytime during your entire cycle, of course. And I think it's especially helpful during the high energy phases because we're so outwardly focused. Maybe we feel a little bit neglectful of what's going on inside because we're like, yay, I finally have energy. Let me just go and do all these things. So let me get a sip of water. And we're just going to take a couple moments to connect with the body through our grounding practice. So you can join me or you can just watch and save this for later. And if you're joining, please join me in on your yoga mat or just on the floor or carpet in our gentle, easy pose, our cross-legged seat. Let's take a moment here, get nice and comfortable. Maybe let out a little sigh. The eyes come closed. Let your awareness begin to drop into the body. Begin to notice your breath. How does your breath feel today? Is it shallow or deep? Is it fast or slow? Where do you notice it most clearly in your body? Maybe you feel it in your chest or your belly, your throat. There's no right or wrong answers here. We're simply connecting and making observations. Let's take 3 cleansing breaths together. We're going to breathe in deeply through the nose and exhale a nice, long, steady exhale out the mouth. Breathe in and out. Maybe letting out a little sigh. As your awareness is really dropping in, connecting with the body here, let's do a little body scan. From the top of your head all the way down to your feet, begin to notice any parts of yourself where you feel tension or tightness or soreness. As you return back to that natural rhythm of breath, whatever your body naturally falls into, with each exhale, see if you can release those points of soreness or tightness. So we move through a few different stretches and movements here. Remember, you can always come back to the breath to reconnect with this awareness, reconnect with your energy and your body. Your next inhale, blink open the eyes. Left hand comes down to the earth, right arm sweeps up, and as you exhale, deep bend over to the left. Inhale through center, exhale, bend over to the right. Stretching along our sides and our back. Inhale high, exhale low. Inhale high, exhale low. Inhale back to center. In your next inhale, begin to hinge forward over the hips, coming forward into our all fours. Our hands and knees are tabletop position. Take a moment to find your weight evenly distributed between hands and knees. Your next inhale, drop the belly down to the floor as the tailbone and crown reach up toward the sky for cow pose, deep opening through the belly and chest. Exhale, tuck the tailbone in, curl up through the back, tucking the chin into the chest for cat pose. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. Continue flowing with your own breath here, moving at your own pace, exploring that full range of motion in your spine, really warming up through the body. After your next cat pose, inhale, meet me back in a neutral spine. Tuck under the toes. As your next exhale, send the hips up and back for downward facing dog. Take a moment here, checking in with your alignment. Are your hands evenly pressing into the earth? Are your shoulders drawn down the back? Let's walk our dog. Press one heel into the earth and then the other. As we stretch the backs of the legs and wake up our back. Remembering to reconnect with the breath, checking in with the body. Find that place of stillness and down dog. Your next inhale, rise up onto the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, look forward between the hands, and begin to take steps, releasing toward the front of the mat. As you release the torso down over the legs, bend your knees as much as you need to comfortably release the torso down over the low body. Bring the feet nice and wide. This time, bend the knees deeply, grasp opposite elbows. Give a gentle rock side to side and ragdoll. Ragdoll, just like it sounds, our torso is hanging almost lifeless over the legs. Letting all the tension drain away from our shoulders, our neck, our back. Giving us a chance to reconnect with the breath. Hands come down to the earth, heel toe the feet in, centered under your body. A nice, steady stance, perfect for your balance. In your next inhale, press the feet down as you bend the knees, sweep the arms all the way up to the sky, upward salute pose, our body in one long line. Exhale, hands come down to the heart. Take a moment here to breathe. Shifting your weight side to side, front and back. This is Tadasana or mountain pose. Just take a moment to connect back with the breath. You can let your eyes come closed. And complete another body scan like we did earlier, from the top of your head, working all the way down to your feet. Notice how your body is feeling physically. And then check back in with the breath. And notice how your body is feeling energetically. And what can this tell you about where you are in your cycle? Is it in sync with where you are in your cycle, or is it out of sync with where you are in your cycle? What might be a reason for that? And how can you best honor how you're feeling today? I invite you to bring this knowledge, bring this awareness and wisdom forward with you. And when you feel yourself being called or drawn to follow that linear model of up, up, and up, instead checking back in with how you're feeling, checking back in with what you really need. When you're ready, you can gently blink open the eyes and move forward with the rest of your day. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste. Hey, thank you so much for being here, friends. Thank you so much for joining me and learning about cyclical wisdom and cycle tracking and how we can use our yoga practice to not only become aware of that and start that journey, and then also once we're on that journey, how we can use yoga to check in and honor our energy throughout our cycle. So I hope you enjoyed this live. I really hope, cross our fingers, that it actually went over live this time. I think it did because some people joined, but just in case it didn't, for those of you that are here live, thanks for being here, and hopefully this video is not just lost to Instagram history. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, wonderful rest of your week. Keep an eye out for announcements about some exciting cycle tracking and cyclical living tools coming up very soon from Energy Flow Yoga. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you, if not before, I'll see you next week. Bye, friends.